fine with them.
Me too. And Jess?
And I do have one add-on. I have a resolution approving a supplemental appropriation into Commissioners Fund 1101-1110 and an operational transfer from General Fund 1101-1110 into Health Benefits Fund 6632.
So moved. I read the note on that. Thank you.
Second.
And yes?
And that's all I have.
Very good. We have an administrative hearing relative to RDJ, a PUD Stage 2 in Union Township. Crystal, if you could, please read into the record what has been filed.
So the application, the site plan, and the letter requesting a review of the PUD Stage 2 was filed.
Great, that's it?
And then
And then how was the notice given?
the legal notice was published in the Journal News on August 11th, 2024, and legal notices were mailed to adjacent property owners within 500 feet on July 31st, 2024.
Very good. So since this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, if you're going to testify, please rise. I'm going to swear you in. Raise your right hand. Do you so solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. And if you would, when you come up to speak, just identify yourself and say, yes, I've been sworn in.
All right.
And this time I'll take RPC staff member testifying on behalf of regional planning. What's going on here?
All right, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Cameron Grashinsky with RPC, and this morning I'll be going over the RDJ Community PUD Stage 2. And again, before I begin my presentation, just want to let you know the applicant is here for any questions that you have after the presentation. So looking at the PUD Stage 2 process, this did go before the RPC Executive Committee back in June. They gave a recommendation for approval, and it's here today for your decision. And it's worth noting as well that they received revised PUD Stage 1 approval on June 7th of 2022. Going over the project overview, the property owner is RDJ Holdings LLC. Site location is 2752 South US 42, Lebanon, Ohio. The site area is 19.971 acres and located within the B2 PUD Community Commercial Business Zone. And the current use is a metal fabrication and welding shop with on-site wastewater. Here is a vicinity map, so you can see it's located along US 42, and it is adjacent and just north of the Southwest Golf Ranch that you heard last week. And here's an aerial of the site, just getting a closer view. So going over the proposal, there are a few uses that are proposed on this subject site. Starting off in red is the metal fabrication and welding shop. The applicant is proposing a 12,000 square foot business expansion, as well as a 3,000 square foot pole building. So that's in red. In blue that you see on the right is a wedding event center. So it's a 7,150 square foot banquet facility, 1,200 square foot deck, 2,500 square foot dock with attached pump house, as well as 7 300 square foot rustic cabins. In green that you can see to the north are agricultural storage facility, so a 5,200 square foot agricultural equipment storage, and a 2,400 square foot livestock building. And what you see in the black outline in the center with the purple is a proposed residence. The applicant's proposing a 3.08 acre parcel for a single family residence. So looking at the zoning, again, it's B2 PUD, and that's adjacent to B2 PUD to the south. That's the Southwest Golf Ranch, as well as R1 zoning to the east, west, and north.
Was this a church at one point?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is the property that was bought from a church by Ramesh Malhotra, and then got returned by Ramesh Malhotra. And then I guess it was sold to the current owner.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Just making sure this is...
Gotcha. Going over the environmental features, about half of the site is located within the groundwater protection overlay that you see on the left, and on the right you can see portions of the site are located within the floodway, as well as the 1% and 0.2% annual flood hazard chance. And the applicant is proposing maintaining the existing trees through a tree preservation surrounding the site with no additional buffers or landscaping proposed. So with that, staff is recommending approval of the RDJ Community PUD Stage 2 to the BOCC. There are 13 total conditions, and those are all included in the staff reports. I was just going to go over the ones that are in bold. Starting with number 4, prior to PUD Stage 3, the applicant shall work with the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District concerning the location of rustic cabins located within the flood fringe. All structures located within the flood fringe shall receive the Warren County Soil and Water Conservation District Administrator's approval. 5, that resolution number 22-0843, condition number 9, is interpreted to mean any of the following. A, prior to PUD Stage 3, the applicant shall submit a revised site plan illustrating the cabins located outside of the floodplain. Or B, prior to PUD Stage 3, the applicant shall submit a revised site plan illustrating the cabins elevated above the base flood elevation. 6, prior to PUD Stage 3 approval for non-residential uses, the applicant submits a stormwater management plan approved by the Warren County Engineers Office. 7, the applicant shall contact the Ohio Department of Transportation for review and to determine if a traffic impact analysis is necessary. If a traffic impact analysis is required, the analysis shall be conducted prior to approval of PUD Stage 3. The site's internal vehicular circulation shall be reviewed and approved by the Warren County Engineers Office prior to approval of Stage 3. And 11, all welding shall be performed and conducted inside of the building. All materials and storage pertaining to the welding shop use shall be kept inside a building or screened from the view of persons on contiguous property or persons using public right-of-way. And here is the 13th condition. I'm happy to answer any questions or turn it over to the applicant.
And this is essentially, it's already used for a welding operation. They're looking to expand the welding operation, add a single-family residence, which the owner, I assume, would live on. And then number 3, the wedding venue, and the wedding venue is an approved usage under this type of zoning?
That's correct. It was approved back in PUD Stage 1 back in 2022.
Okay, very good. This time, I'd love to hear from the applicant. If you'd like to give us a quick overview, what's going on, what are your plans, all that kind of good stuff?
My name is Rex Jager. I have been sworn in. Thanks for having us. Plans, basically everything is similar to Stage 1 except for a few modifications. The biggest one was cutting out the residential property. That was done basically just for estate planning. If something were happening to me, my wife would be fine if something happens. That's the main reason for that, instead of just having a house in the middle of all of it. The other thing was the green portion was actually down in that corner where the 3 is. We actually moved it up because it took away, once we laid it out for the livestock, it took away from the property, just having a big building out there in the middle of everything for livestock. So it was actually moved back up where the green section is there. The red was originally planned, the larger one, the smaller one. We had a client approach us to help them reduce their waste in the candle manufacturing company. And so what we've done is taken on a large contract to keep landfills from receiving all the candles that are not approved for retail sales. So we've been recycling all the jars, getting the wax out, and it's grown tremendously. And so we can't keep that in the same building with the welding, so that's what the smaller red building off to the back was just for the recycling portion of the business. Everything else remained the same as Stage 1. If there's any questions, I can try to answer the best I can.
Mr. President, I recommend that you ask him if he has any questions or objections to the proposed conditions. If not, then perhaps we can skip the remaining formalities unless there's someone here that plans to object to this.
We like expediency, so at this time, I'll ask you.
It's all good.
Has everything been entered into as evidence that you want us to consider?
Yes.
Have
Absolutely.
we denied you any rights to cross-examine or question anyone? Would you like to question staff or anyone?
No, you have not denied me any.
So it's been straight up, there's nothing you could ask of this board in addition for us to do
Just
right now.
asking for approval to move forward.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
At this time, I'll ask anyone wish to speak in favor of this project? Seeing none, anyone wish to speak in opposition of this project? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion at this time to close this public hearing,
So moved.
or administrative hearing.
Second.
And yes, what is the pleasure of the board?
I move that we approve the revised Stage 2 plan brought forward with the 13 conditions that staff proposed.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you all.
There you go. You don't get this in other places, so. You don't get this type of expediency in other places, so.
Well, appreciate it. Thank you. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's actually good when we take this, we're pro small business stuff seriously. Very good. Martin, you have anything else, Susan?
Yeah, we wanted to seek guidance. It's that time of the year where we start sending out budget letters for 2025, and as I put in the kind of agenda summary, wanted to see, traditionally, we would come in with a percentage kind of over last year's appropriations. We were wanting to know if it'd be acceptable to look at it from a little bit of a different lens and work with the departments to sit there and kind of, actually, Susan's got some of them over here, is kind of use their actuals for the last several years and build from the actuals versus building on top of the appropriation. So I was curious if you were, if that was an acceptable approach to you, or if you want to go more of the, not poor way to phrase it, but the standard we've done historically.
So am I to understand that the issue is the appropriation authority has been higher historically than what was actually spent, and so the desire is to start with the actual spend and then build the budget from that?
Correct. So if you take 100% of appropriations, historically Tiff and I would talk about, or Tiff would, would teach me that the spend would be somewhere about 92 to 93. Obviously, there's different departments that will have fluctuations, but that was the sort of the average. Doesn't change anything relative to any carryovers, because that's obviously, we're still spending a number and then we're taking in what our revenue is, so that stays the same. It's just looking to see if we could build, yes, to your point, build off of what is actually spent and not increase the overall appropriation number by a percentage that the board wanted. So it's a different approach. We'd like to see if that's something that we could put in the letter to send out to folks, and Susan and myself and Crystal will sit there and spend a lot of time working with the departments and making sure that that is, and bring that back to you.
I mean, it's a mechanism to get us a more accurate spending budgetary level. I don't want to say it's a drawback, but it's the only thing I can think of when we do it the way we've been doing, here's your total budget, here's an extra 3%, and essentially, we don't spend it. I mean, one way or the other, it kind of comes back into the general fund surplus anyway, that if we don't spend up to budget, because they don't,
Yeah, it actually doesn't come back to the general fund, it's just it never leaves the general
Yeah,
fund.
right.
Yeah, but I mean, I mean, and Susan and I were talking, even if it's a sort of a hybrid, do we start this year with those that are under the BOCC and hate to, get the kinks out a little bit of it, and then the following year take that out, if it's successful, the following year take that out to other elected departments that are in the general fund, so there could be a hybrid that we look at those types of items. But I think we were just wanting to, I've seen, taking the tax budget from 2 years ago when it was 13%, I thought I was gonna get chased out of the room type of scenario. I know that we're hitting certain numbers and thresholds, and we're fighting an appropriation number that's closing in on 90 million, but we're not necessarily going to spend that. So do we actually have an ability to come in at an appropriation that is actually less than what we did last year? And I think we'd like to look to see if that's possible.
I think also what sometimes happens, if I added $10,000 to my budget to get a copy machine this year, next year I just don't remove that, because all we're asking is for them to increase their budget by 4%. So I think looking at the trends for the last few years of actuals, it almost pads a budget to allow spending where we don't know what's happening at all times. So it makes us a little bit more knowledgeable about what exactly is being spent, going through line items. We've met with each of the departments under the board to kind of go through each and understand if you're asking for $30,000 in training, what's that training you're gonna be doing? So I think it kind of allows, hopefully in the long run, more knowledge for each department, and not just to say, you can increase your budget 4% over last year, and then we don't really know what that 4% is, because that was allowable. But more like, if you only needed 2%, then you only should do it 2%.
Right, which is, from a financial oversight perspective, the way you should be doing it. We've been very fortunate that all the other elected officials have had a very similar mindset as we have, because you're exactly right. All right, your budget is $100. Well, you normally only spend $94. So all of a sudden, here's $6 that, you know, you could have spent, but you didn't. So now all of a sudden, that never left the general fund, so that's part of our carryover. But then next year, your budget automatically goes up to $103. I'm really probably only gonna spend $94 again. And so it shows our aggregate cost of doing business keeps growing when necessarily it's not, and that just, our budget's going up, but that at the same time, the carryover's going up fairly substantially. If we get those two things in line, that's where then we have the ability to make decisions like property tax holidays.
It also shows, I'm so sorry, it also shows that so some supplies are going up in cost, and we'll be able to see that, because those are actually going up, where I think sometimes if a department has additional money, they do spend it anyway, but we just don't even know what they're doing with the money, so it's not always coming back to us, I think, at times. So I just think that accountability over the next few years, hopefully will be.
I do like the idea of maybe starting with our BOCC agencies and to sort of test it out and make sure that we're getting the information from our departments to then be able to articulate that out to other elected officials as they're building their budget over time. I think that makes a lot of sense, since it's a new way of doing it.
Would you be okay, like in the letter that we send out, at least explaining to the whole what we're doing under the BOCC?
Yeah,
But
I
also,
think
if they would be willing to follow that, we'd love to work with them, but here is the other alternative option. If you want to go back to kind of status quo for this year type of scenario.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
And the sheriff's office is already in agreement with taking this route, and we created a template, which I can share with everybody, that kind of makes accountable for employees. They can see, so we can see, in one page, you can see everything that they're asking for, increases, decreases, instead of having to page through.
And
So it'll allow for that.
And I'll give Susan and Crystal a significant amount of credit, is they've actually, to their point, already met. I mean, we've started the final budget literally at the same time the tax budget was coming in, so that because from their perspective, it was really, they took the initiative, because it's a learning phase for them to really dive in. So your department heads are aware of this. We've said it vocally, and then they've said it in their individual meetings, but I mean, we can send that out to do that kind of hybrid approach and see what it comes, and hopefully it's successful, but it's, we know costs are going up, but I don't know that it needs to be at the level of what the appropriation blanket has historically been. So I would agree that the $94, or whatever Commissioner Young said, the 94 might become 95, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 104 appropriation. And that's, again, a poor way to phrase it, is just kind of the time to start to true up.
Yeah, no, and I think that's probably a good thing of, the board philosophically is heading down this path. We're gonna start with our own agencies. Next year, if this all goes well, next year we plan on doing this with the entire budget. If you would like to participate in this manner now, let us know.
Agreed. I think the more transparency we can get in our budget, the better off everyone is, and so I think it's a great idea.
Okay. All right, we will send that out, and we will, either we'll send it out on Friday, probably Friday or well, it can't be Monday, but either Friday or Tuesday. I guess we could send it on Monday, but no one's gonna read it.
That's why I'm
So,
gonna send it.
but, yeah, no, we just wanted that guidance, and, but beyond that, I think it's just, unless there's something else I'm missing, the 2 executive sessions, and we're good to go. Well, I don't know the.
All right, very good. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Okay, I'll make a motion, we go into executive session for personnel matters to consider the dismissal or discipline of a public employee pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G1, and for pending litigation with legal counsel present pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 121.22G3.
Second?
Roll call.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Grossman?
Yes.
Very good, thank you.